Hello, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. It's Phil Thatch, and today I'm going to be looking at a lens from Brightin Star. It's their 85mm f1.8 prime lens for mirrorless cameras. I'll be looking at the one for Nikon Z series cameras. And 85mm is kind of the unofficial best focal length for portraits. And I made a couple of quick portraits of my wife out on the back porch, which I'll show you a little later in the video, but mostly what I did with it today was street photography. 85mm is just fine for street photography, as you'll see soon. But first, let's take a look at the lens itself. The lens feels really good in my hand. It has a focus by wire focus ring on it, and it has an aperture adjustment. It is not clicked. The aperture adjustment is not clicked. For me, I just keep it all the way over in A, which there is a little bit of a click when you move it to A. And when you have it in A, it can either function automatically or you can control the aperture with a command dial on your camera, which is the way I prefer to do it. It has one function button right here, and it has an autofocus, manual focus switch. And that's it for controls on this lens. It has a pretty decent sized lens hood, which can be reversed. So I like that quite a bit. And of course, it goes on easily, fits nicely. I'm going to take that off for just a minute. The lens cap is a pinch style lens cap, and the filter thread is 62mm. This lens has an 11 bladed aperture, so when you're stopped down a little bit, it should give you nice and smooth out of focus areas. And on the back of the lens, you can see that the mount is metal. There's a USB-C port for firmware updates, and the little red dot helps you line up the lens when you mount it on your camera body. Now, I would prefer that very small red dot be a larger white dot here on the outside of the camera. It'd be easier for me to see, and I'd be quicker to mount this on the camera, but that's just really being nitpicky. Speaking of mounting it on the camera, here's my Nikon Z8. Let's put that on there. Oh, that clicks into place nicely. There's no play whatsoever, and it looks really good on the camera. Let me put the lens hood on it. Yeah, so there's what it would look like if you were out shooting with this lens on the Z8. Looks pretty good. So as I said, I did just a few portraits of my wife on the back porch just to kind of show how the lens will do in that field, and then I took it out for street photography. So let's get started with that. I made a few portraits of my wife Heather out on the back porch with some trees in the background. These are all wide open. These are unedited raw files, and this one is at 1.8. My focus point is on this eye, and it is nice and sharp, but you got to be careful with an 85 1.8, because if the eyes aren't exactly on the same plane, you can see this eye is a little soft, and that's not the lens, that is photographer error. So there is the 1.8 shot, and this one I've got it stopped down to 2.5. Still looks really nice at 2.5. This is f4. Now the background's getting a little bit distracting at f4. And here is 5.6, and this is f8. And I thought, you know what? I went straight from 1.8 to 2.5. So then I made a shot at 2.2, and this one is at 2.8. So there's 2.8, 2.2, f8, very distracting background, 5.6, f4, f2.5, and there's the first shot wide open at 1.8. The lens works well for portraits. Hello and good morning, it's Phil Thatch, and I am sitting in the median of Broad Street in downtown Chattanooga. It has an island that goes all the way down the center of the road. And I picked out this spot because I've got light on me, and when I turn around, I've got light on my back. And there's a parking garage right there, which you may or may not be able to see behind me, and it's dark. So if I catch a subject walking by, they will have a dark background, and the dark background has some lights in it. So I thought that might be pretty cool. And there's a Starbucks just over this shoulder. So people are coming in and out of there. So I'm using the lens that I'm reviewing that I've already told you about, the Brightin Star 85mm f1.8 on my Nikon Z8. I'm trying to shoot mostly wide open, but I did get a shot earlier of my car that I stopped down to, I think f3.2 or something along those lines. But I'm going to show you the shots from here in the middle of the road near Starbucks and keep on working. All right, here's a quick shot of my car. This is a 2025 Mustang Mach-E. This is stopped down to 3.2. That color is called Velocity Blue Metallic, in case you're wondering. And now here is a lady getting out of her car with a great big dog and going somewhere. I'm not sure where. This is wide open at 1.8. Here's a man crossing the road with his walker. Got a little Philadelphia Eagles going on there. This is wide open at 1.8. Very sharp on him and good separation with the background. Here's a gentleman sitting. I think he's waiting for the bus, but he's about a half a block away from the bus stop. This is another wide open shot at 1.8. Looking really good. Great separation here. This lady was riding down the street, and there is a bike lane on this road, but she wasn't in it. She was in the traffic lane. I made some shots of her as she went by at 1.8. This one, she's a pretty good ways away, and I love the way these trees look in the background of this wide open shot. In this last one, she's right beside me, also wide open at 1.8, and I really like the way both of these shots turned out. Now I'm sitting in the median on Broad Street, and we've got a jaywalker, but you pretty much have to jaywalk to get to where your car is parked. You can park right on that median that she's walking towards. This is another wide open shot at 1.8, and she has got some Starbucks, and she's very sharp, and she has that 3D pop look because everything around her is out of focus. That's a good demonstration of what an 85 1.8 can do. Here's a gentleman who looks quite a bit like Bruce Willis, who's jogging down the road. He's just past the Starbucks, and now he's going by the parking garage. And here's a group of people walking out of the parking garage, checking him out as he runs by. This is another 1.8 shot. Here's another shot from my location seated there in the center of Broad Street as this gentleman walks by the parking garage. I liked the leading lines of these lights. And again, the dark background makes my subject, who's not in the dark, pop. And this is another wide open shot. Here's another gentleman walking past in that area. He's got some Starbucks and a water, which I don't think he got at Starbucks. Maybe he did, I'm not sure. Another wide open 1.8 shot. And here's this group. They were walking through the parking garage when the Bruce Willis lookalike went by, and now they've gone to Starbucks and have themselves some beverages. And I made 2 shots of them as they were having a conversation and walking through the area where I had set up my shot. All of these are 1.8. Look at this f1.8 shot. We got a lady talking to a Tennessee state trooper and another Tennessee state trooper standing by to see what's going on. And he saw me sit down and point the camera at him, and he just completely ignored me and went on about his business. This is another shot wide open at 1.8. Here's another street photography shot that I'm happy with. You got this young lady walking down the road and checking out her phone, and I like the way her clothing matches the bike rack that she's going by. I also kind of like this strand of lights. In this area, there are lights that cross the road, and these, instead of crossing the road up in the air, are hanging down on the ground. People like to look at their phone these days. I'm guilty of it too. This is another wide open 1.8 shot, but with the background so close, I probably could have shot this at f4 or 5.6 and been just as good. Maybe even better. In that same spot, a bunch of fancy cars came by, and 2 or 3 went by, and I didn't even take a picture. I was so dumbfounded by the fancy cars, and then I said, hey, I should be making photos of these. This is stopped down to f3.5. I was trying to get a little more of the car in focus than just a tiny amount that 1.8 would do. And this is, I guess that's a Porsche Boxster, I'm not sure. And look at this brightly colored Viper, another shot from that same location at f3.5. And this is very close to that same location. This lady was not looking at her phone, and she saw me, and instead of looking away, she smiled at me. So that was pretty cool. And she's got some Starbucks as well. This one, I still hadn't gone back to wide open. I was still at 3.5 taking pictures of the cars when they went by. So this is a 3.5 shot. I'm still at 3.5. I really should pay attention to my settings more. This probably I would have wanted to shoot at 1.8, although 3.5 is just fine. It's another young lady walking down the road there in West Village, and she's paying attention to her phone as well. I like this shot because you can see her reflection in the glass, and because I'm not pointing the camera directly across the street, you can't see my reflection in this window, so that's pretty cool. The lens has a minimum focus distance of 0.8 of a meter, and I made a photograph of this beautiful flower at minimum focus distance, so it's not going to be a macro lens. You might be able to get closer with some extension tubes. This is wide open at 1.8. So all of these shots have been edited, and I ran them all through Topaz Denoise AI. I like the way it sharpens, and I like the way it reduces noise. The portraits of my wife earlier in the video were not edited, but these street photography shots have been edited. All in all, I really am happy with the performance of this lens, especially for the price. It's much less expensive than, say, the Nikon 85 1.8. I also did a few brick wall shots, so let's see how it performed in the brick wall test. Here's the brick wall test. This is wide open at 1.8, and you can see, as any 85mm 1.8 lens, there is some vignetting. Corners get a little darker than the center. And there's also some pin cushion distortion. You can see this line kind of bends down in the middle, and this line kind of bends up in the middle. That's what's called pin cushion distortion. Wide open at 1.8. It is fairly sharp in the middle, not tack sharp, but fairly sharp. And in the corners, not so much. But for portraits, the corners don't really matter. Here's a shot at f2.2. The vignetting is not as bad. The center is even sharper, and the corners are still kind of soft. Here's a shot at 2.8. It looks like the corners are getting brighter still. The center looks very good now, and the corners are still kind of soft. Here we are at f4. The corners continue to brighten. The center looks pretty much perfect now, and the corners are still pretty soft. Now we're at f5.6. The vignetting is mostly gone. The center looks great. And the corners are still pretty soft. This is f8. Everything's looking pretty good, especially center sharpness. But the corners still seem a little soft to me, even at f8. Here we are at f11. It still looks pretty good in the middle. I thought there may be some softening in the middle, but it still looks pretty good at f11. And the corners still don't look very good. So this lens is best in the center. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it's sharp. It's just the very corners where it falls off, and that's where I've been looking. Once you come in just a little bit to about right here, it's nice and sharp, but the corners are still kind of soft even at f11. Here is f16. No vignetting at all. It's probably lost a little bit in the middle because of diffraction, and the corners are still kind of soft. So if you're looking for extremely sharp corners, this is not the lens for you. But for portraits, which is what this lens is kind of designed for, being an 85 1.8, I think it does really well. All right, thanks for watching this quick review and photo shoot, a little street photography with the new Brightin Star 85mm f1.8 lens for full frame mirrorless cameras from Nikon Z series cameras. It may be available for other mounts, but I tested out the Nikon version. If you like this content, take a moment, reach down, hit thumbs up. If you want to see some more stuff like this and all sorts of photography related content, subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.